guys, welcome back to another video, and this isn't going to be a super long video, and this is really impromptu, but I kind of wanted to talk about it just because it's something that was bothering me. I kind of touched on this before in my other video. I'm sorry about that. My Bluetooth is being weird. I touched on this before in my other video, which I called it, it was the video that's called, Dear Internet, Restriction Isn't Okay. And basically I was talking about eating disorders and restriction, and the fact that people seem to, specifically restriction, other eating disorders aren't okay either, but I was specifically talking about the fact that people seem to glorify and promote restriction or restrictive diets, and I basically talked about that in a video before. So that video kind of touched on this. So again, before I get into this, I just want to put a trigger warning again. If you don't want to talk, if you are triggered by talk of, like eating disorders or weight loss or restriction, anything like that triggers you, then please don't watch this video, because the last thing I want to do is to cause you more stress. But I think it's important to say what I have to say here, and this is genuinely something that gets on my nerves, and this is something that really gets on my nerves, is that when you blame someone for your eating disorder, like if you blame, or people get used to, okay, I'm not really sure how to phrase this, but people get used as Thinspo all the time. Okay, so Thinspiration, if you don't know what that is, it's you find a person who is thin, and that is your inspiration, or you want to look like them, basically. Or you want to go on a diet that is restrictive because someone else did that. So using a person as Thinspiration, or using a post as Thinspiration. And I'm going to talk about this again because I talked about it last time. I was talking about the diet, the quote-unquote diet. I really hate using the word diet for this because it's blatant restriction. My problem with it last time was I was talking about how trendy it was to go on this diet that was like one meal, or was it one meal for 10 days? But it was like snacks and stuff, but it was like, and it was trendy to go on this diet. It's like YouTube making shit like that trendy isn't cool, but it started because of Jimin from BTS. He said that he did this diet, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but it's basically, though, people will use that as Thinspo. So for instance, they'll take Jimin's diet because he said that when he was filming a video, that he ate one meal for 10 days, okay? So he said that. So people took that and used that as Thinspo, okay? And the other example that I have is just Eugenia Cooney's existence. People use her as Thinspo all the time. People will say they're Thinspo because she has a very thin body. She is unhealthily thin, in my opinion. I think most people would agree that she's unhealthy. But people use her as Thinspo all the time. When I say just her existence, I mean like just her Instagram posts or her photos. People see her as Thinspo, and they use her as Thinspo. It's honestly quite emotional and quite ridiculous. I see people use her as Thinspo, and it makes me so sad, because it's like, why would you want to? I'll get into that. So, of these two examples, I'm using these two examples because these are the ones that I've observed. I'm sure there are countless other examples, but basically people using a celebrity or YouTuber or internet personality as Thinspo, okay? Which is, I'm going to say not cool. It's not cool to promote Thinspo. It's not cool to promote those behaviors. And again, it's a little bit of a different situation, where with Jimin, they're using the diet as Thinspo, as this is the diet you should go on to be thin. And with Eugenia, they're using her looks as Thinspo. They're looking at her and they're saying, wow, she's thin, I want to look like her. And then like the diet is like a way of achieving that, more or less. Or just restriction in general is the way of achieving that look. So, I want to talk about this because this really bothers me, because I've seen people will blame, I've seen this a lot with Eugenia, people will blame her for being a bad influence on people, and people will blame her, will put all the blame onto her because people use her as Thinspo, because she's unhealthy and she's promoting herself on the internet. as unhealthy. And I haven't really seen it blatantly, but I mean, people have implied, and I'm a big BTS fan. If you don't know this about me, this is like irrelevant to the conversation, but Jimin is my bias, and I have a lot to say regarding if someone wants to blame him for someone else's restriction, basically. And I just really wanted to talk about this because it's something that really bothers me, and I think what bothers me most is, again, that people were using this as a trendy diet, and we're taking this diet and basically making it a trend for views or for restriction purposes. I'm not really sure why you would do that, but it strikes me as just really insensitive, I guess, to promote a video of you starving yourself, even if it's just something you're trying and you're not anorexic. That's really insensitive, because there are going to be people who are going to take that as thinspo and do it. Now, if you are actually sick, I don't think you should be shamed for, and nobody should be shamed for their mental illness. Now, it gets to be a problem when people promote anorexia. So there's people on Tumblr and stuff. I'm personally not on Tumblr, but I've watched a number of videos about this type of thing, like pro-Anna, pro-Mia community. It's absolutely disgusting. I remember watching Sedantic's video and Ready to Glaire's video as well. It's absolutely disgusting that people promote this, but at the same time, I don't mean I understand, but I can kind of understand because the people are sick themselves and they're trying to fuel their eating disorder, which is it's not okay to promote it, but I can understand why they're doing it. Same kind of thing with like self-harm. It's not okay to promote self-harm, but if you are, struggling and want to self-harm or in a position, you're going to look for self-harm tips, you're going to look for stuff like that, and people are going to be looking for that for each other, and people who help each other out. It makes me very sad to see that, because these people, it's not okay. It's not okay to promote anorexia. It's never okay to tell someone in these posts, in these like Tumblr posts and stuff. Again, I don't have like the posts up, but I've watched videos where people have discussed these types of Tumblr posts and read these types of Tumblr posts. Again, I think Sedantic's video was really good on that. She did a video about anorexia on Tumblr, and that anorexia it's shouldn't be glorified, basically, and was reading some of the posts about it. And I think it's something that really makes me uncomfortable when I see people, endorsing anorexia. And what I mean by that, by endorsing it, is they're saying people, and they're not when talking about themselves, not when saying, I want to be thin, I want to be whatever. That's your own, thing, and you can work through, and people should be allowed to talk about their mental illness. I don't get into that. So, there are spaces you need trigger warnings for certain things. There are spaces where you don't want to just say you want to self-harm or something. Like, that might trigger someone. You don't want to, say that. But if you have a safe place to talk about that, you should talk about it, because you should talk about it rather than do it. And I'm never going to follow, but I'm never going to, attack someone for having an account where they post their weight or goal weight or whatever. I don't think it's the best thing, but again, that's on them. And it's kind of like, the problem arises when I think it gets to be a problem when people start endorsing anorexia. Is if you tell other people to starve, or you send other people thinspo as thinspo, or you post things that are thinspo and post them publicly online. Like, if you edit a picture, or not even edit it, just use a picture of someone and use it as thinspo. If you use it as your own thinspo, that's unhealthy. You shouldn't do that, because it's unhealthy and it's bad to use anything as thinspo. You shouldn't starve yourself. But if you use it as your own thinspo, that's because you're sick, and I'm not gonna tell you what to do. But if you use it as thinspo for other people, if you post it as thinspo and are saying, hey, I'm giving you all thinspo, that is not okay, because then you're basically saying, here's some thinspo, take a look at it. And even if that's not the intent with the diet videos, those are just trendy YouTube videos, that's also, again, not okay and disrespectful. But going back to the cases, I really want to say is that when people put all the blame onto the celebrity or the person whose fault it is. Now, I'm not saying people shouldn't be held accountable for their actions, absolutely. If someone is a drug addict, you should, if a celebrity or someone in the public eye, if they're a drug addict, they should not be endorsing drug use, okay? But A great example that I personally think is a great example is someone like Demi Lovato, who has been very open about her struggles with addiction and bulimia as well. But I'm not going to get into that too much. But the fact that she's talked about her struggles with addiction, she doesn't want to be addicted. Addiction sucks, okay? And she's talked about how hard it is. She wants people to be aware of her struggles so that they are aware. And, you know, sometimes having a celebrity or a famous person in a situation lets someone know that they're not alone. So having someone basically be open about their mental illness, I think, is a great thing. I think celebrities being open about their mental illness is so important, honestly. And we don't see it enough. And honestly, and I'm not saying they have to be, like, if you don't want to talk about it, I completely understand that. But I think when celebrities are willing to be open with their mental illness, they should not be shamed for that. So basically the equivalent to, and I'll be getting into this, is basically saying, oh, it would be if you said someone started doing drugs because, and someone said, oh, I started doing drugs because Demi Lovato did drugs. Like, Demi Lovato never endorsed drug use. Demi Lovato never said, oh yeah, kids, you should all try drugs. Drugs are awesome, okay? She never said that. In fact, she shared her experiences with addiction because she wanted to talk about how hard it was and how much it sucked and how much it ruined her life. I mean, she was talking about all those experiences in her documentary, which is really good, by the way, her documentary on YouTube. I forget the name of it right now, but it's really good. So she was talking about all that, and the fact that she's able to share that with us, she's not trying to promote drug use. She's saying it sucks to be addicted. She's sharing her personal experiences with, she doesn't want anyone else to go through that, so she's going to share that experience. You know what I'm saying? She's going to say, hey, I don't want anyone else to go through this because it's awful and it's a terrible experience. And I think when you've had an experience that's self-destructive behavior, you don't want anyone to go through it. I personally haven't really engaged in self-destructive behavior, but I have had bad anxiety and depression at times, and honestly, I would never want anyone to go through that. It's a terrible feeling. So I understand exactly where she's coming from with talking about addiction in that way. Now, applying that to an eating disorder and applying that to Jimin's case in this specific scenario here, Jimin never told anyone to eat like him. Jimin never said, you should do this diet. In fact, he said the opposite. He said that he was eating, he had eaten one meal in every 10 days. And he revealed this, and he actually said it was a bad idea in one of the video clips that I saw. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it, but I did see that clip. I'm not making it up. So he said that he realized it was a bad idea to go on that diet, okay? And I think him talking about it to me, and the fact that he brought that up or revealed it, first of all, is being very vulnerable to even admit something like that. Is being very vulnerable, which, again, I tend to have respect when celebrities are vulnerable to a point. Don't just have a screaming meltdown on stage. I mean, but again, to a point, I respect when celebrities are vulnerable, and there's a difference between being vulnerable and being crazy. But in his case, he was being vulnerable and basically said that in the storybook, in the concept book, and also he said that in one of the video clips. It was on one of the eating shows. I can't find it exactly, but I know what I'm talking about. So he basically said that, and he said he realized it was a bad idea. And I want to say that this is a good piece of evidence. He would never want anyone to go through this. And when I want to say that is because he, first of all, is a extremely, extremely nice and caring person. And I'm not saying I can't, I don't know him personally, but from all of the clips, from what the other members have said, from what his staff, pretty much everyone has said he is, and just from like the clips I've seen and all that, he's just a very genuinely caring person and one of the hardest working members, and that he cares for everyone and will make sure everyone's good, take care of everyone. And when it comes down to that, it's really pretty much that he is very caring for other people, and he cares very much about his fans. He's grateful for his fans. I don't think you have those moments with fan connections. I don't think you look at that and you say he doesn't care about his fans. It's honestly ridiculous to even try to pretend that he doesn't care, because he is probably one of the most caring people. And I know that sounds dumb. I don't know him personally, but I am like that myself, so I can kind of relate and relate that to myself. And one thing that these people tend to have, this specific level, is that these people tend to be very caring toward other people and not tend to look after themselves. So they'll tend to, put other people's needs before them to a fault where you won't take care of yourself, which is something that I've done in the past. And it's destroyed me, honestly. There'll be times where I'm just so busy trying to fix everything for my friends, and then my own life and my own mental state is absolute shit. And sometimes I have to withdraw myself and be like, hey, let's just not go on social media right now. Let's just not talk to this person about that. It sounds selfish, it sounds bad, but I have to fix my own mental state first. And that's something that I had to learn, and I'm still not necessarily good at. So I can definitely relate to that myself. So getting back to the specific situation, I think that Jimin, in this case, would never want anyone to go through that. And I have proof and evidence that he would never want anyone to go through that, because there was a specific that he stopped dieting at one point because Jungkook started dieting. And another clip during the DNA reaction video, and this is very easy to find online, the DNA reaction video, and there are subs for it as well. He basically said that he pointed out that Jungkook had lost weight. He basically said, Jungkook, you lost weight, you need to gain some. Now at this point, Jimin was quite thin. He'd lost a lot of weight. I mean, he hadn't gotten weight back since Blood, Sweat, and Tears. If anything, he'd lost more weight. And he was talking, and he said that to Jungkook. And in the reaction video, and I remember reading the comments, and all the fans were like, Jimin, you need to gain weight too. And it was kind of really interesting to me, because I felt like he had gone through that and didn't want Jungkook to go through it. So he said that because he was concerned, because this is my personal opinion. When you've been through something, you tend to notice behaviors in other people that are similar. So any sort of mental illness in general, like anxiety, depression, certain signs of things you see in people, or just behaviors, when people start doing certain things, if you've been through something, you will start to notice other people doing it, and you'll worry for other people, which in this situation is what happened, because he had done it, and he would never want anyone to go through that. It's evidence of why in the world would he want someone to go through that. It's just, you'd have to be a heartless monster to want someone to go through that, which is pretty much the opposite of what Jimin is. So I just don't see that. The similar thing does apply to Eugenia. I think Eugenia has never, ever endorsed looking like her. Okay, Eugenia has never said, you should look like me. Eugenia has constantly said, you're beautiful the way you are. She's been so sweet to her fans. She is one of the sweetest people I've ever seen on the internet. She's just absolutely such a genuinely kind person. She's just genuinely so sweet, and she cares so much about her fans, and she never told her fans to look like her. And often fans will say they want to look like her, and she'll say, don't say that, you're beautiful the way you are, basically. And you can say, oh, it's all talk, no action, but again, I don't see why she would want anyone to go through that. Now, Eugenia's case does frustrate me a bit, because she seems to have relapsed, which in and of itself doesn't really frustrate me, but the fact that she hasn't addressed it, I guess, kind of frustrates me. But again, I don't really want to be in a position again, YouTube might be her catharsis, and she just has a hobby, and taking that away from her, taking her community away from her, would be harmful at this point. So I honestly don't see how that would be beneficial to anyone. The people who blame her for causing people to be anorexic, it's ridiculous, honestly. And the reason I say this is because in these specific cases, these people were living their lives, okay? And these people had struggles. They had mental illnesses, right? Which is not something that you can fix. I mean, you can get better, but it's not something that you have control over. It's not like it's like a physical illness. It's not something you necessarily have control over. And yes, you do have control over your actions, but people will engage in self-destructive behaviors, and it's not okay. And like I already mentioned, endorsing self-destructive behaviors is 100% not okay, ever. But you could say there would be an argument that, oh, they're endorsing it just by looking that way, just by being that way, which if anything puts more pressure on them, which is the last thing you want. And if someone's truly struggling with a disorder, it's ridiculous to, or just, you know, some sort of destructive habit, even if there's not like a confirmed eating disorder in Jimin's case. But if someone's struggling, clearly struggling with their body and their weight, blaming them for making other people sick is the last thing you should do. It's honestly disgusting. And like I said, I get the evidence that if you've been through something, you would never want anyone else to go through it. Like, he would never want anyone else to go through it, and there's that evidence there with Jungkook, how he reacted to Jungkook's diet. You would do everything you could so that people wouldn't go through that, because you have been there and it sucks. And again, with Demi Lovato, it's the exact same situation with her. She would never want anyone to go through addiction the way she went through, because it sucks, and that's why she was so open about it. She literally talked about how addiction ruined her life, and she was so open about it. I'm sorry, I just got chills. That she talked about it, and had she not, you know, she discussed that because she's saying it ruined my life, and I think Jimin mentioning that was probably saying, don't try that. He never said it was a good idea. Like, the fact that he mentioned passing out, or what, I don't remember if he passed out or if he almost passed out or what the situation was, but the fact that he mentioned that in and of itself is not endorsing something, saying he basically, if you take it away, you could say, try this diet if you want to pass out and feel terrible, because that's literally what he said he felt. And he's honestly, I feel like him saying that is honestly him trying to basically make people aware, like, hey, don't do this. This sucks. This is a terrible thing to go through. Why would you want to go through it? And it's kind of like don't do this to yourself, basically. And then that gets twisted into pro-Anna shit. And the people who turn it into pro-Anna, again, I think it's disrespectful, because if that person doesn't want you to turn it into pro-Anna, turning it into pro-Anna. And the thing, I'm going back to Eugenia, using her as an example here. Eugenia is at an visibly unhealthy, highly unhealthy weight, visibly, okay? And she is living her life. Like I mentioned, she has her internet, she has her network, and that's where she gets support from. Like, if you, like, I have had depression, and if you took away my network of friends and my Instagram, that would really fuck me up, okay? Like, I am, like, that's my network, right? So if you took away her YouTube and her platform, that would fuck her up, and that's not okay. So saying young kids are seeing that and being sensible, you can't make someone anorexic just by looking a certain way. It's honestly crazy. Are you going to say that Boogie 2988 is promoting obesity by being obese? Like, people aren't going to say, oh, this is what you should look like. Eugenia would only be promoting anorexia if she said, hey guys, you should all look like me, and this is the beauty standard y'all should have. And again, I want to clarify that she is, has never said anything of the sort. She's absolutely, just is the sweetest person. And when it comes down to it, anybody who wants to look like Eugenia Cooney already has a problem. And I say that right now, and that may sound really mean, but I'm being honest here. What I mean by that is that Eugenia Cooney's body type is not what a normal person would consider ideal or healthy. Most people aren't going to find that attractive, okay? If you want to look slim, it is normal and rational to want to look slim or skinny or fit. That's perfectly normal. It's normal to use celebrities as inspiration for what you want to look like. Somebody like, I don't know, like Miley Cyrus or Ariana Grande having a more real, it's realistic. It's not impossible. Though I will admit they both have small bones and some people have larger bones, so it might not be something you should achieve. But what I'm saying is that you can use a celebrity as inspiration and say, if you want to go on a healthy diet and, exercise or whatever, that's totally valid. But, so I understand, like, if someone wants to look like Miley Cyrus or Selena Gomez or, somebody like that, I completely understand. Like, that is not entirely unrealistic or unhealthy necessarily. I don't have any reason to believe that Ariana Grande is unhealthy in terms of her eating habits. I don't know anything about her eating habits, but just based on the way she looks, the way she acts, I have no reason to believe she's unhealthy. She is very slim, but I have no reason to believe she's unhealthy. She's slim in a way that I don't think she's unhealthy. Same thing with Lisa and Jennie from Blackpink. I don't think they're unhealthy. Now, Eugenia, on the other hand, is clearly unhealthy, and why would you want to look unhealthy? Like, that's my genuine question. Why would you want to look unhealthy? And if you want to look unhealthy, in my opinion, you're already delusional and you already have something wrong with you in terms of your mind, and you're already struggling with body dysmorphia and have this like unrealistic expectation of what you should look like. And I'm not shaming people for having that. That's not their fault, obviously. But what I am saying is that people are basically ignoring, or not ignoring, but they're basically just saying that, oh, it's Eugenia's fault, which it isn't, because if you want to look like Eugenia, there's already something wrong in your brain. Kind of like if you want to kill someone because you played Call of Duty, there's already something wrong with your brain if you can't tell the disconnect between playing a violent video game and committing violence in real life. If you don't know the disconnect between fiction and reality, there's already something wrong with your brain. Playing a video game isn't going to enact the violence. You'll commit violence in some other way. Like, it's people who blame media, basically. It's the same thing. It's blaming media for someone's, and no, I don't think you should glorify unrealistic body types. I don't think that's a thing, and I'm talking about the modeling industry and all that, but when talking about someone like Eugenia, she's never said, hey, you should all look like me. And the people who blame her and shame her for basically living her life online and being, you know, such a nice, positive influence to everyone else. She's so pretty. And it's very, very sad when someone uses her as inspiration and someone takes that, and it's unfortunately inevitable that people will use her as Senspo. Somebody takes that and says, oh, this is Senspo, I'm making this Senspo. But to me, it's kind of like, that's not her fault that you're making a Senspo. That's kind of the situation. And the same thing with Jimin and with the diet. It's almost like you're looking for an excuse, like, oh, I want to go on a diet soon and I want to find a way to lose a lot of weight, and then that comes out and you're already sick and you're already want to lose an amount of weight in an unhealthy way, and that came out and they're just like, oh, he did it so I can do it too, basically disregarding the health things because you're already in that mental state where you're delusional and you don't think to you know, what's going to be healthy. You're concerned with specifically losing weight. It doesn't matter how you lose it in that case. So you're going to take something like that and twist it and make it Senspo, which, again, what I want to say about all this is that what I mean by all of this is if you have a problem anyway, you would get your Senspo somewhere else. If Eugenia Cooney didn't exist, if she didn't have a platform, okay, the people who are sick will go looking for Senspo. They will want Senspo. They will go looking for Senspo, and they will get their Senspo somewhere else. There will be other celebrities. There will be other images online. There will be Senspo. Of course, you can go on Tumblr, find tons of Senspo posts there. And the same thing with dieting. If you can find, even in K-pop, there's so many unhealthy K-pop diets and that you could go on. I'm not saying you should. You should never go on an unhealthy diet, but this is something that I've seen a lot of, and it honestly gets on my nerves because it's just kind of like, it's not okay to shame people, even because they're celebrities. They're human too, and saying they're celebrities, they have to be perfect, basically, be a perfect influence on everyone. I think the best thing a celebrity can be is honest about their struggles. I think, yeah, endorsing something like drugs is not okay, I agree, but being honest about your struggles is, to me, what a celebrity should do because it makes people feel like they're not alone. And that's really important. So people who twist stuff and use it as Senspo, they're going to find Senspo anyway. And you could say, oh, it's making it easier for them, and Eugenia's causing young girls to act and look a certain way. I don't know why there are 9 to 11-year-old girls on YouTube watching Eugenia Cooney. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but it just kind of makes me wonder why they're on YouTube without parental monitoring. And I really don't think somebody like Eugenia should be banned off YouTube. I just think it's a stupid argument to make. But anyway, guys, that's about it for the video. Well, I don't want to say I hope you liked it because it's a very heavy topic, but I did kind of want to talk about it. So if you guys have any thoughts on this, comment down below. Please be respectful, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.